and clear. If not, we will need to figure something out. So let me double check and make sure it's working okay. And if you can hear me, let me know in the chat. So let me just double check. Hear me loud and clear. Looks like it is coming through, so I did double check that. So I'm just going to keep rolling, and hopefully you guys, Tanya, if you're okay, so she said you can't hear me now. Perfect. All right. So that just goes to show that sometimes you have to figure things out as you go. So I'm not sure if that was just for Tanya, if that was for everyone, but I do want to make sure, if you didn't hear us, that we did start an open Facebook private group just for our members. We did open the doors for that. And this is just for Blogging Your Passion University members. A lot of great conversation going on there, and a great place to build some communities. And it looks like everybody can hear me now just fine. Okay, awesome. Not sure what was going on there. Or if it was just Tanya that was having some trouble there. So, but yeah, so go ahead and ask your questions about Google Hangouts. We're going to have fun sharing my desktop screen, walking you guys through this process. We've got another office hours coming up soon in a couple weeks. We are behind the scenes working on updating some awesome material for Blogging Your Passion University members. You guys are going to get access to this way before the other members who have purchased just the courses by themselves. So I'm excited to be releasing these videos to you and letting you in on this new Blogging Your Passion University 2.0 that the rest of everybody else is going to get full access to sometime in January. But over the months of September, October, November, and December, I'm going to be releasing kind of section by section, module by module at a time. And I'm really excited. I've been using some of what I'm teaching in the new university. I've been using that in private one-on-one mentoring and coaching, and been seeing some great results, some clarity, people feeling like that they've renewed their passion about their blog because they understand the core habits they need to do, the systems they need to put in place, and how to just manage everything. So I'm real excited about the new 2.0 version of Blogging Your Passion University that you guys are going to be hearing about soon. All right, so our topic again is all about Google Hangouts, and specifically I'm going to share with you, I've tried to simplify everything into 3 major sections that we're going to talk about today. So whether, again, you are brand new or whether you've been using Hangouts for a little while, this should really help you to better understand how to use Hangouts. So here's what we're going to look at first. I think first, more than anything, you need to establish a purpose. What is the main purpose of wanting to do a Hangout? See, what's really cool about Google Hangouts is there's no shortness of creativity that this can be used for, because you're on video. So, I mean, you could do a Hangout outside, you can do a Hangout in front of a whiteboard, you could do a Hangout in a demonstration class. Like I know Eric's here and he teaches karate and he has an awesome website and a blog. I mean, you could show different moves, you could show them let them in on a class that you're teaching. You could do all kinds of fun, interesting ideas. The creativity is endless with a video of a Hangout. But you need to establish your purpose. Is your purpose to, let me give you some ideas about a good purpose. And there's no one right answer. I think there's one that I lean to more strongly than others. And the one Well, let me just go through the different ones. So I would say first and foremost, a great way to use a Hangout is just to build community. So if you go to where Hangouts are on Google Plus is one of the places you can find it, or you could just search for Google Hangouts. You can find that there are a lot of people that are just doing regular Hangouts. You know, there's a lot of mommy bloggers that maybe they host a Hangout at 12 o'clock every Friday, and it's for 1 hour, and they'll bring on a expert, and they'll pick a topic, and they'll just promote it. They'll promote it on their Facebook fan page. They'll promote it on Google Plus. People are searching through the Hangouts directory, and it catches their eye, or it gets posted when you do a Hangout. It automatically gets posted in your Google Plus feed, and other people that have circled you can see that, and they may decide to pop in to see what you're up to and find out what's going on. So one primary purpose is just to create community. And that's simple, it's easy. I'm going to show you in just a second how you can start a Hangout if you don't know how. But that's just one simple way to get started, is simply build a community. And then you can have your lower thirds, kind of like I have right here, where people can see your website, and even if they jump in for a couple minutes, they can jump over to your website, and it can be a promotional tool. So one main purpose that you can use is just to create community. Another purpose that you can use it for is, and I kind of alluded this a little bit earlier, but you can bring on an expert to where you interview them, and they'll often, if they have an audience, they'll advertise to their audience, hey, I'm on this Hangout today if you want to come hang out with us. I've done that before when we've had like a panel of people, and all of us basically put it out there that we're going to be jumping on this roundtable, leadership roundtable discussion, and then we get on the Hangout and we talk about a topic. Sometimes we have a host, and then other people contribute, and then you can see everybody's little boxes where everybody's in the Hangout, and then the person who's talking is the one that shows on the primary Hangout. So that's another purpose, is it can be a traffic building tool, because as you bring on other experts to interview on a Hangout live, they very well may promote it to their Twitter feed, their Facebook fan page, their email list, to let people know that they're going live. And then probably the primary one, the one that I use it for, now it doesn't come by default with Google Hangouts, but it can be easily used for this, is to actually use it like a webinar where you collect email addresses. So the purpose is list building and building your list. And so I'll typically hold a free open webinar just about every month. Now I've got 2 blogs going, so for blogging your passion, it's about every other month I will hold a free webinar about a certain topic. And then on my jonathanmilligan.com blog, I'll hold a webinar on the alternate month for different topics and different things. And they can be used for all sorts of things. You can actually talk about a product, you could sell a product, you could talk about a service, or just use it as a list building in general. Now, if you want to know how I use it as a list building specifically, I will talk about that in just a little bit as well. And again, if you're having questions, go ahead and ask those questions. There's a couple places you can ask questions. You can ask it on our private Facebook fan page. You can ask it on the actual Google Plus Q&A box that's on the Google Hangouts video itself, or you can ask it in the actual webinar room, which brings me to this. Most of you are watching right now on the webinar room, and you want to know, well, how did you get your Hangout inside of the webinar room? Well, this is where I actually use a software that goes along with Hangouts. It actually integrates together. It's called Webinar Jam, and I'll put the link in here inside the chat for everybody. And Webinar Jam is basically a tool, a software. You don't pay monthly for it. You pay one price, and then you have access to it annually. You can create as many events and webinars as you want. It'll create your own registration pages, so you don't have to worry about how to create your own registration page to collect email addresses. And you can use your existing email service subscription provider. So whether you're with MailChimp or GetResponse, Aweber, they are integrated with all of them, and it's just a really cool tool. So that's something you can check out, is check out Webinar Jam, and that is what I'm currently using. So what that does is it allows Hangouts, and then it allows the chat box. It allows a series of emails to go out to remind people about your webinar. It'll automatically send the replay to them the next day. And there's many more features. Again, it's list building too, so it automatically, as I'm doing free webinars, you can do list building. You can actually also, through Webinar Jam, do a paid webinar, and I've actually done those in the past, where I've charged as much as $47 up to $97 for a single webinar for people to join. And so it integrates with PayPal. It's pretty easy to set up, and so if you ever wanted to do an actual paid webinar, you could do that and try that out as well. Really cool. So the plan, the purpose? What is the purpose for you wanting to start a Hangout? I think getting that clarity is helpful. That doesn't mean you have to figure out a purpose before you start. Sometimes it might be good for you to just try a Hangout and see how that feels. Okay? All right. Number 2. Now let's actually talk about presentation. So you're on a webinar. What do? Let's say you get, maybe you get 50 to 100 people to show up. Maybe you get 10 people to show up, 20 people to show up. What do you actually do for the actual presentation? Now there's lots of things that you can do for the presentation, and there's lots of cool little apps. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into some of these. And again, if you have questions, definitely ask. But what I'm going to actually do in order to do this is something I don't usually do. I'm actually going to share my entire screen here. So it's going to look a little funny because the boxes are going to go off into infinity, but you're going to be able to see actually what I'm looking at right now. So over here, this is part of Webinar Jam. It creates this the chat box, so I can see the chat that's going on, and I can actually, this is another cool thing with integrating with Webinar Jam, is I can see these questions as they come in, and I can also decide if I want to get rid of some of these. I can just X them out and make sure I'm answering the questions that I have. So that's just a neat little feature. So now we're actually on the Google Hangouts, and on the left side, you have all these different apps, and across the top is where you control the video and the sound. So if I click on this little settings, I've got my camera, I've got the microphone I want. I can choose to have a sound come out. So everything's good there. I like that. If I ever want to mute myself, I can click here. If I want to turn my camera off, and I just want it to be sound, I can actually click here. This is showing me kind of the bandwidth usage. And then this right over here is to invite people. So if you wanted to start a Hangout and you wanted to send to your email list a link where your Hangout is, and this is the very simplistic way to do it, is you can click on this invite people, and it's got a link here that says link to share. Now, if I wanted to invite people from Google+, I could invite all my circles if I wanted. I can do that as well. So that is pretty much how you would do that. But by sharing this link right here, by sharing it on your Facebook fan page, by sharing it in a Twitter feed, by sharing it with your email list, people can come and jump into your Hangout. So I've got the window here. I've separated this out from my regular browser, which is right here, and then I've got a PDF that I want to show on the desktop, or I want to show in just a second. So over here on the left side, we have the chat that is going on over here, and looks like there's not very many people using that. They're using the other feature there. This next one down here is called screen share. Now the screen share allows you to do several things. First of all, and I think it popped off, so let me see if I can go back to showing you this. So I may not be able to show you the screen share because it looks like it's going to pop me off of where I am currently at, which is showing my desktop. But when you click on screen share, you can choose to show your desktop. You can choose to show any window that is currently on your desktop. So if I wanted to show a PDF as my presentation slide, which I've done a lot, then I would just come over here, click on screen share, choose that PDF in the window, and then now you actually see the PDF. And we'll be looking at this PDF in just a minute. So that sometimes if you don't want to mess with PowerPoint or Keynote, then the simplest way is to create a PDF. You can go inside of Google Docs, kind of type up your points, and then export it as a PDF. And then as you're doing your presentation, you can just scroll your presentation. I've done it that way for a long time. I use a new method that I'm about to show you in just a second, but that's a simple way. Now you might be saying, well, why not use PowerPoint? Why not use Keynote? It can be a little tricky and a little difficult because in order to like show just your presentation on your Google Hangout, you need to go to the full screen view. And by going to the full screen view, now you've lost the ability to really see what you're doing with your Hangout, and it just causes some trouble and confusion. So there are some kind of workarounds, but it's kind of complicated, and it's much easier just to use a PDF and to share that PDF. Okay, so now I've kind of shown you the screen share. Actually, the chat was just for the if you have people in your room. The Q&A box is for people who want to ask questions via, sometimes they'll put over the window, ask a question Q&A box. That's the way that people who are watching your Hangout, if you had a Hangout that's more live than we are currently, then people could ask a Q&A box without using something like Webinar Jam. The Cameraman app, this is important that this comes by default in your Google Hangouts. And this Cameraman app has a few features over here that if you're doing a Hangout and you don't want other people's video or their audio to come through, then you want to click on that little Cameraman app. And it says, as guests join, hide their audio and video from my broadcast. You just click yes. And then I just have yes on all three of these, so that if anyone were to try to join the Hangout and they wanted to show their video, if they want to show their audio, that you wouldn't be able to see that or hear that as well. All right, this moves us to the really cool tool that you're going to need to add. If you go to Add Apps, you want to definitely add the Hangout Toolbox. Now the Hangout Toolbox is going to create this cool little feature on the right side of your Hangout, and it's just got some really cool things going on over here. First of all, if you want to just do a lower thirds, let me see if I can click on this. Might not be able to. Yeah, okay. So you click it on, and then I can just type in here. And then by clicking on this little silhouette person and clicking this on, when I go over here and share my screen, let me turn it off and back on. You can see now I've got a lower third right below here with my default picture, which is really cool. So that's how you do in the lower third, is just using that Google Hangout toolbox. Go back to the entire screen. Okay, so that's how you could do that. I'm going to turn that off now, because what I've been using to do my presentation today, and what I've been using this now for a couple months that makes it so much easier, is I do a custom overlay. Now these custom overlays you can create yourself, and then when you turn it on to use it, then like I've got here, this one I have labeled as intro. When I click this little checkbox, and then I come back over here, now you can see the intro. So see how that takes up the whole window? I'm going to show you an easy way to create these in just a second. But then I can also use this for my main points. I can use this for point 1, point 2, point 3, just by clicking through them. There's also a really cool, this one that I started off with today, this really cool lower third. I'm going to show you how you can create this. You can create it right now and download it, put it on your computer for the next time you're on a Hangout. You can also create something like this that is basically you can do whatever you want with your cool little space that you have available on here. So now you may be saying, well, how in the world do I create that? So before I show you that, let me just go back and make sure you're able to see this again. Show the screen share. So down here, you can simply, and I'm not going to do it because it's not going to show anything right now because I'm sharing my screen, but by me just clicking on the next little one or jumping around, it's changing the slides for me, the pictures. These are custom overlays that can take up the whole screen if you want to. All right, so you say, how do I create that? Well, let me show you an easy, fun way that you can do that using a cool website. And I'll put the link in there in just a second. But now I'm sharing my actual Google Chrome. This is called Hangout Magic, and it's spelled magix.com. And check this out. So you have the option to create your own lower third. You can do a social media shout out. You can create one that's a call to action for your Hangout, or you can create a little sidebar if you wanted to advertise during your Hangout. So let's talk about the lower third. So what you do is you actually can type it in right here. So I can come in here and I can type in my name. And then I can come down here to style, and let me see here. Just make sure you can see this. So I come down here to style, and I've got these different options that are all here. This is still in beta, and I think they're probably going to end up doing a lot more. But you can change. Let's say I like this one, and then I like green color, or I like this really cool orange color, or this blue color. And then logos, you can change your logo. You can upload your own logo like I did. And then all you'll do is click download. Now you're not going to get the guy in the picture. It's actually going to be transparent, so people will be able to see you in the Hangout, but you'll have this lower third at the bottom. You do the same cool thing for the social media. So I come in here and use this. And let's say I want to make that Twitter. I can create one just for social media. If I want to promote a certain social media, I can do, again, a call to action, or I can get people to come to my website as they're hanging out in my Hangout. I can change the style and the look and feel of it. Change the colors. And you got the sidebar that you can do the same thing. So again, I'm going to post this in chat, but this is hangoutmagics.com. Go try that out. I think you'll like it. It's a pretty cool little feature. Now, you can also create your own. You don't have to use this website. What you want to do is you want to use you can create it using PicMonkey, you can create it using Canva.com, you can create it using Photoshop, whatever you want to do and however you know how to do it. You can create it. All you need to do is have the correct dimension, the correct size for the length and the width is 640 by 360, and that 640 by 360 is the size for creating one like I've done with mine. Now, let me go back to the screen share and screen share the entire screen because I want to show you how I actually upload this. So once I create them, if you click on this button, it's going to call up my, I have on my desktop, I have a folder that is called presets. And preset is where all of these that I've created are. So let's just upload this one. So when I upload one, I can say intro webinar. When I save it, now it adds it here at the bottom. And now I'm able to click over to it. And everybody can check out the intro to my webinar. And then if I want to go back to me, I just click on the little blue circle again, and it goes back to my live, or I can actually go even over to my lower third as well. So that's probably a lot to take in if you've never done a Google Hangout and you're trying to process this, or maybe you're like, man, there's just so much that Jonathan's sharing right now. I can't possibly remember how to do all this. Well, this replay is going to be in the members area. You can definitely go back before your next webinar and jot down some notes, look at how to do this. You can totally do this. You don't have to do this to the full extent that I'm doing it. Again, you can just add this Hangouts toolbox and then use the default lower third instead of the bottom one, and just use it that way. That's the way I did it for a long time. And then I just used, like I said before, a PDF for my presentation, and that's what I did to share my notes, share my main points. So that's a little bit of the ways that you can do a presentation. Again, you can do this simple, or you can have a little bit more fun with it and use the actual points that we're using here with the saved presets, the custom overlays. So again, if you have questions about this, or if I went over something too quickly and you want me to re-show you how to do this, then please ask it in the chat, and I'll be happy to. We've got some people that have already asked some questions, either on the Facebook group or by email, and I'll be getting to those in just a little bit. We've got one more point to cover, and then we'll jump in and answer some questions. So again, just as a recap, first you have your purpose. What is the purpose? Do you want to just try it out and build some community? Do you want to make it a traffic building tool where you advertise your website and you bring in experts? Or is the purpose for list building and you love to build a list? I'll say this, mine is definitely for list building, because by far and away, most of you that have been in a lot of my training, you'll hear me say that webinars is the #1 list builder for me in building my email list. All right, and then there's the presentation. I kind of give you a brief overview of how the Hangout console works. Definitely add the Hangout toolbox so that you can use that to make it a little bit more professional. You can, again, use it for a lower third where your name shows up in the Hangout, or actually your presentation slides like I'm using here. And then the last point we're going to talk about is a plan. So what's your plan to get people to show up? Now, you will get people to show up on a Hangout if you just put it out there on Google Hangouts, because it's out there for people to find. If you have a YouTube channel and you're using Hangouts on Air like I am, then it also is accessible to people over on YouTube. So let me just talk about that for a minute, because I think for some of you that might be helpful. In fact, I think this is one of the questions that got submitted, so I'm going to attempt to try to tackle it a little bit here, and then maybe we'll tackle that question if it's a little bit different here. But people can often get confused. I know I have gotten confused with the different the different types. I really think they're going to end up bringing it together. But essentially, there's a Hangout that you can start where you just started a Google Hangouts. You start a Google Hangout like you just Google Hangout. And then you start a Hangout. It asks you who do you want to invite. If you want to invite your circle, then it shows up in your Google Plus profile in the news feed over there. However, Google Hangouts on Air is different. That's actually connected to YouTube. And that's what we're doing here right now. And one of the major, well, there's a couple differences, but one of the major differences is that the Hangouts on Air actually get automatically recorded. So this right here is automatically being recorded. I don't have to worry about trying to remember to hit the record button. It's automatically being recorded, and as soon as I click Stop Broadcast, it's going to show up over inside of my YouTube account. Now, if I want that to be private, which means like this session is for paying members, then I can simply change that to unlisted or private so that people can't find it on my YouTube channel and people can't find that by searching on YouTube. But if I'm doing a free webinar, then I want that to be out there because people can find my webinar on YouTube. How cool is that? So not only can people find out about me through my blog or through signing up, but they can actually find out about my webinar over on YouTube. So that's the major difference, is that it's connected to YouTube. And when you if you go over to YouTube right now and you search Jonathan Milligan, you probably can find this, unless I did start it off with unlisted, which I think I did, because that's another feature with Webinar Jam where you can decide to keep it unlisted. But if I was doing a free webinar and I want to make it public, people could actually join the free webinar actually over on YouTube. So that's a little bit about Hangouts. So you have Hangouts, which are kind of private, only the people that you can invite, sort of like Skype or sort of like FaceTime. Think about Hangouts as that. So it's only people who you've actually invited. So if you've sent them the invite link, or if you've posted it using the invite where you can invite everybody who circled you, then that's where you can have people show up. Or you can do the Hangouts on Air and people can find you with all sort of different means. So beyond that, let's say you really want to work at getting traffic to your Hangout. I'm going to share my my actual document of how I promote a webinar. Now, this document is already inside of Blogging Your Passion University. I've only ever shared this to our monthly university members. So you can find that, just search webinar, and you can download this entire PDF. I'm also going to put this under the replay. So if you're watching this on the replay page, if you scroll down a bit, you can actually download this exact step-by-step process that I've used to promote webinars for a while now. And what I'll do is I'll typically just follow this checklist, and I've worked on this checklist and I've developed this checklist, and it may even look different a year from now. But I just want to quickly walk through this just in about 5 minutes. It's going to be a quick overview because it's explained pretty much in detail on the PDF, and you'll be able to get access to that and print it off. So what I'll do is I'll typically start the promotion for my webinar 10 to 14 days out. I don't like to go 30 days out because I feel like people forget about it. People sign up and it's just too far off in the distance. So what I like to do first of all is I like to advertise it on my blog. Anytime you put something in the sidebar of your blog, it's going to show up on all of your blog posts. So you may have a blog post you've written 2 years ago that still gets the most traffic on your blog. By having it in your sidebar, people are going to see that, even though they're not coming directly to your homepage. Number 2 is I create a Google Plus Hangout event about the webinar. And you can actually go over to Google Plus, or you can just type in Google Plus Hangout event inside Google, and you'll see where you can create one. Then I promote the webinar on Google Plus. I'll just put a little link about it and driving people to the sign-up page and showing them that this hangout, this webinar is coming up. I promote the webinar on my Facebook fan pages. I do this on the private groups as well as the Facebook fan pages I own. I'll go over to LinkedIn, and I will promote it on LinkedIn. And of course, here's some steps laid out for you. I'll also put something out there on Twitter. And it's funny, there's so many of the signups have come from Twitter when I've done webinars. So I think Twitter is a great tool for promoting a webinar. I'll promote the webinar on Pinterest. The sidebar image that I'll use, I'll just pin that on Pinterest. And you don't have to do all of these. If you're kind of feeling a little bit of overwhelm right now and you say, well, I'm not on Pinterest, so I'm on these places, don't worry about it. Just start with what you do have. Promote on YouTube. You can actually create, and I don't do this for every webinar, but you can create a short intro video about the webinar and post it on YouTube. I then promote it with any communities, groups, or forums that you might have online, and maybe you do, maybe you don't. If you have a webcast or a podcast, promote your upcoming webinar on your podcast. And then here's a specific thing that I do. I do an email blast the Monday before the webinar. So typically I like to have webinars on Thursdays, either Wednesdays or Thursdays. And I'll promote that first email to my group saying, to my email list saying, hey, this week there's a webinar, here's what it's about, would love to have you, sign up here. If you can't make it live, you'll still get the replay link, so that I can get them excited about the webinar. And then what I'll actually do is the very next day, I'll do a second email to all the unopened subscribers. Basically what that means is, and every single email provider, subscription provider does this, but you can actually go to see the results of how your first email did. And all the people that unopened it, or did not open it, I should say, the people that did not open it, you can assume that maybe they didn't see it. So you can send another email about your webinar just to the people who did not open your first email. Another thing I've done, I don't do this all the time, but promote via Facebook ads. I'll do that if I think that on a webinar maybe I'm going to launch a new course or something like that. And then I send an email to all the registrants reminding them of the webinar, usually 24 hours before. And then I send a 1-hour reminder just before the webinar to remind them about it, because people forget, we all forget, I have forgotten about webinars that I've signed up for. And 14 and 15 happen automatically with the Webinar Jam software that I use. So again, I know this is a quick, broad brush over this tool, but I gave this to one of the members inside my mastermind group. They took this, they followed it step by step, and they had twice, if not 3 times as many people attend his last webinar, and it resulted in 2 or 3 new coaching clients for him, which is really, really cool. So you guys are welcome and free to use this. And if you've got ideas, things that you've done with promoting Hangouts or webinars, I would love to hear it as well. So with that, I'm going to start seeing if we've got any questions going on here. And we're going to tackle a few questions. So if I've covered something that you want me to go back over, or maybe you missed something because I went over it too quickly, definitely jump in and ask your question now. We're going to hang out for just a few more minutes and answer some of your questions related to Google Hangouts. So let me first of all find some of the questions that were already submitted here from people. So okay, so Tanya, which I think Tanya, you're actually here live with us. And this is a great question because I think you have two questions here, but the first one is definitely a great question that many people don't realize. The question is this: how do I eliminate the delay between what I do and when it shows up on the screen? So here's what happens. You are actually hearing and experiencing what I'm talking about somewhere between 15 and 30 seconds later than when I'm actually talking. And so that if you do one of your first Hangouts and maybe you have a second computer or you have an iPad and you're just tuning into your own Hangout, that will drive you crazy because you're talking and then you're hearing things that you said 15, 20, 30 seconds earlier. And it can also be a little bit frustrating when you're asking for live feedback. So like earlier in the Hangout when I was saying, it looks like some of you are able to hear me with the audio issue. I wasn't getting instant feedback from you because you hadn't heard what I just said yet. There is a delay, and basically that's because it's because that's the way YouTube has it. I don't know more specifics. Maybe you can do some research on why, but I know like when you embed a Hangout somewhere else, there is that delay. So if you embed it into a page or something like that. So Tanya, there's not much that you can do about it. What I'll do, if anything, if I do have a second computer or an iPad next to me so I can see what's going on live, I will turn the audio way down so that I can see that my screen is still showing up and that my video is still showing up and that people can still see me. So that, of course, is how there's not much you can do about that. Here's Tanya's second question. I want to do webinars as part of a course I'm going to offer, which, stop for a moment, that's a terrific idea. That's something that I love to do. I think when you get a bunch of people on a webinar about a certain topic and then you give them a discount or you give them an early bird special because you're launching a new course, you've got a captive audience and you've already shown them and taught them in several different ways as well. And so you've got their attention. I know I've done that like for an Evernote course. That's how I launched one of my Evernote courses. Is I did it from a webinar and got a ton of signups at the end because I shared my very best stuff inside of the webinar/Hangout. So that's a great way to do it. But let me finish your question. I noticed you suggested using either live Hangouts on Air, Webinar Jam, or any meeting. What's the difference between using those and just Google Hangouts? So you were the person that asked that question earlier. Now, any meeting is an entirely different animal. That is a webinar software all by itself. I used that before I started using Hangouts. And one of the reasons is because, I mean, although they have a free account, you have to kind of put up with some annoying ads, is I didn't want to pay monthly anymore. There's a lot of tools out there, people do still use them. GoToMeeting, any meeting. I've used just about all of them at one time. And I just got frustrated with having to pay for them when Google Hangouts now actually broadcast in HD quality. It automatically records for me. And by me using the Webinar Jam software, I have everything that I could want with the competitors out there. So there's not anything that AnyMeeting or GoToMeeting does that I can't accomplish with Hangouts in Webinar Jam. So Webinar Jam doesn't have it's not a separate webinar platform. It actually works with Google Hangouts. So hopefully that makes sense. I think you are here, Tanya. So if you need some more clarification or more specifics, go ahead and ask in the chat box. And I'll try to get to it in just a second. All right. I know we had at least one question over in our Facebook private group. So I'm going to go over there real quick. And this question is, I'm brand new to Google Plus and Google Hangout. just want to know how to efficiently use them and the best way to get in touch with the audience. Okay, so hopefully some of what I covered today will answer that question. If you're absolutely brand new to Hangouts, then let me do a screen share, because there's all kinds of ways, and part of me I wish that Google will make this a little bit easier, but there's like several different ways to go about starting a Hangout. So if we go over here to Google Plus, you should see my screen here. Then up here in the top left-hand corner, looks like it's still loading, so hopefully it'll participate with us. Try refreshing this. Okay, not sure if it's causing issues because I'm in a Hangout or what here. But while we're waiting on that, let me jump over to YouTube. And you can see here I've got, well, these are unlisted because they've got this going on. But here's one I did, some of you might remember this earlier, that I did a free open webinar using Google Hangouts, and now it's in my YouTube channel for people to watch and use. And there's a lot of these. Here's one I did, a webinar I did for jonathanmilligan.com, and so on and so forth. So that's how it automatically gets added. So as soon as I hit stop broadcast, this video is going to be recorded. Now I can use this however I want. I could go embed it on a page if I want. Again, I can make it unlisted if I don't want everybody to watch it, especially if I've done like a paid webinar or something like that. So let me just try another avenue here. Okay, so here they're constantly changing this, but in your menu over here, you can go down to Hangouts. So once you're on Google Plus, you can go down to Hangouts, and you'll fall on this page. And here you have Hangouts on Air. It's actually showing this one that I'm in right now. And so you can see all these other people that are doing Hangouts on Air. So to start a Hangout on Air, you click on this. And by doing that, this is going to automatically record it for you, assuming, of course, you're on YouTube as well. And I guess they're maybe renaming this, but it sounds like they're trying to call it Video Hangouts. And by starting a video Hangout, now I won't be able to click this and walk you through it because I'm in a Hangout right now. But by doing this, it's not being recorded. You can only, let me see what it'll do. Yeah, it's going to try to put me in there. I don't want to do that. So once you get in there, you can have the option to invite people, and that's where you can invite everybody that you've circled, or you can send them a link and do it that way. So there's the Hangouts, and then there's the Hangouts on Air. But that's how you can go and you can start one. So hope that answers your questions. All right, got just a couple more minutes. Let me see if we've got any other questions in here. Tanya says, where do you create the sidebar image for your blog, and how do you put it in the sidebar? Actually, Tanya, there is a great step-by-step tutorial in our last month's fast track class on images. I show you, and I actually even give you the code to put it in your sidebar so that you can make your image clickable. So I show you how to create the image, and the code that you need to put into a text widget on your blog in order to get that to show up and where people click on it and actually go to the place that you want them to go to. For me, it's like the registration page to sign up for the webinar. So I could show you now, but I think that would probably take too long. I could do that again in the office hours call coming up in a couple weeks, or you can just go back to, it's actually on the dashboard. As soon as you log in to Blogging Your Passion University, you'll see the fast track class on blog images. And if you go about halfway, if you fast forward about halfway in it, I actually walk you through step by step with that. And directly below, Tanya, directly below the video inside of the university, directly below that particular video, I pasted the code, and that code is one that you can use over and over and over again. It's the HTML code to make an image show up and make it clickable. So hopefully that'll help. All right, well, we're coming up on just about an hour. That's what we try to have for our classes, but if you do have any questions about Hangouts, please ask them now, or we'll start to wind things down. Or maybe just tell me in the chat box, I learned something new today. Maybe post in the chat box right now something new that you learned. I would love to get some feedback. What was the coolest feature that you learned today? So, so was it the thinking through the purpose? Was it talking about the Webinar Jam software that integrates with Hangouts? Was it the plan that I shared with you on how you can promote a webinar, or the steps I take every time I promote a webinar, kind of 14 simple steps? Or did you like how to create these cool lower thirds, or different ways that you can show a presentation inside of a Hangout? I'd love to get some feedback. Let me know what it is that you liked or enjoyed about today's presentation. Let me just double check and make sure I am not missing anybody's question. So I've covered those. Tanya said she appreciated seeing my actual screen and what I was doing on the webinar. Awesome. Well, you can go back and watch that again, Tanya, if that's helpful to you. And looks like in Facebook, I don't see any other questions there. So if you did email me your question and I missed it somehow, I apologize, but I think we're going to wrap it up. So my encouragement to you is to rewatch this video if you've not done a Hangout before, and to just do one. You know, I remember my very first webinar. I think I had a total of 7 people in the room, and I promoted that. I put it out there. Even though I didn't have a big list, I promoted it, and I brought the goods. I mean, I did a 90-minute webinar, and I gave the very best that I had, sharing all the information that I had. And I remember I actually even came up with some questions that people had asked me prior on that particular topic, because I was nervous about saying, let's cover your questions, and nobody was going to ask any questions. So I already had some pre-questions ready to go. And that day, no one knew that there was 7 people in the room. I gave a webinar like I was talking to 700 people. And that's important. You have to get started somewhere. So don't be discouraged by small beginnings. Everybody started with a small beginning. And maybe today you are thinking about doing this Hangout thing or this webinar thing. You see it as a tool that you can use, And the only way that you get better is through practice. And we all face technical challenges. We all don't understand how to use everything. There's always a better way to do things. I try to keep a simple approach with the stuff that I'm doing. And so, yeah, my encouragement at the end here for you is to just go do one. Do a hangout, get started, add it in. Maybe you decide to do it once a quarter. It'll help you get clear on your message. It'll help you get clear on getting feedback from people. It will set you at a different level with people because you're building into their life. I know for me, webinars, the thing that's helped me the most is I'm just not somebody who types words on a page, but by hanging out with me and being on a webinar or being in this video right now, you get an idea of my personality, my teaching style. Hopefully I come across authentic, and hopefully you get this idea that, man, I can trust this guy, or I want to learn from him. And you can do the very same thing. And that's where doing a webinar, doing a hangout can take you to another level of trust and building community with your tribe. So that's all I've got for today. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me as we talk about Hangouts. So this replay, again, will be inside of the members area. You can go watch it tomorrow, rewatch it. I'll post some of the links, some of the things I talked about today, and the PDFs below the video. And yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you inside of Blogging Your Passion University. I'm always appreciative of every single one of the members. I want to see you be successful. So get with me inside of the university. Comment below the videos if you're struggling or trying to implement things that we're teaching. Or come over to Facebook and join the conversation. So with that, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us.